5 creepy historical photos that look normal until... Do you wish to see some unsettling photographs exploring human history's dark side, including cruel research experiments, serial murders, and the paranormal? Welcome back to Discovery Unraveled. Today we've brought you 5 creepy historical photos with a story behind them. Keep watching to know more. The 2 key components of spooky historical images are what is shown in the photograph and what is omitted. Some of the most horrifying antique photos ever taken make it immediately clear why they're so disturbing when you look at them, but others don't start to scare you until you find out the tales behind them. Sometimes the photo's backstory helps the viewer relax by explaining the unusual scene, but most of the time the narrative only creates additional fear that was unfathomable at first. The stories behind history's most eerie photographs range from the gruesome to the unnerving to the downright odd, whether it be kidnappings and murders, mad scientists, or inexplicable events. Here we bring some of these historical photos that look normal until you know the stories behind them. 5. Blanche Monnier. Blanche Monnier's early years as the adored daughter of a wealthy French family in the 1870s were reminiscent of a fairy tale with ideas of true love and a happily ever after. Monnier, born in Poitiers on March 1, 1849, relished the life of a young noblewoman and socialite, but unlike her peers, she got married when she was well into her 20s. Her desire seemed to come true as she urgently tried to find a spouse and escape her mother's shadow. Monnier was hopelessly in love with an older lawyer in 1874 and intended to wed him. Yet because he was from a lower class, her mother disapproved of him and insisted that her daughter find someone else. Her vicious mother punished her by imprisoning her in a tiny, windowless, pitch-black room in the attic. She was only given leftovers from dinner and a straw mattress to sleep on. Even though doing so would set her free, Monnier refused to give in to her mother and give up the guy of her dreams despite these restrictions. Unfortunately, she was confined to the attic when her lover died in 1885. 16 years later, an anonymous note reported suspicious activity at the Monnier home to local authorities. Despite the widespread belief that Blanche Monnier had long since passed away, investigators quickly inspected the house and found startlingly that she was still alive. The horrifyingly eerie photo that captures the moment she was found shows a middle-aged woman who had been emaciated and abused and hadn't seen the outside world in over 25 years. Monnier was discovered with rodents gnawing on her food and covered in her feces. Her mother and brother, who asserted that his sister was to blame for this, received prison sentences. While the brother successfully contested the charges and was spared punishment, Madame Monnier passed away 15 days into her sentence. As for Blanche Monnier, she spent the remainder of her life in a mental health facility. 4. Feral Child. Jeannie Wiley, the feral child, is the young girl in this 1970 photograph. At 13, she is barely able to walk and is from California. Her father kept her locked up when she was about 20 months old. He never allowed anyone to connect with her during this time, gave her very little stimulation of any type, confined her in a crib with her arms and legs immobilized, and left her extremely undernourished. Her father had brutally mistreated her entire life, locking her in a room with a children's toilet and tying her to it all day. He would growl and show his teeth at her like a dog if she made a noise or did something he didn't like. Jeannie's father didn't like kids and didn't want any of his own since he thought they were noisy. But 5 years into their marriage, his wife fell pregnant. She gave birth to a healthy daughter even though he abused her during the pregnancy and tried to choke her to death near the end. She was left in the garage by her father, who found her sobbing unpleasant, and she contracted pneumonia and passed away at the age of 10 weeks. Their second child, a boy with Rh incompatibility born around a year later, passed away at the age of 2, possibly from the consequences of that or from choking on his mucus. In October 1970, she limped into the Los Angeles County Welfare Office, a stooping, withered waif with an odd habit of putting her hands up like a rabbit. She had an age range of 6 to 7. Her mother, who had cataracts, had gone to the incorrect room while looking for a place that provided services for the blind. But the girl had the welfare officers spellbound. Wiley was raised in such inhumane circumstances that she never learned to walk or speak. Her life inside a string of abusive institutions had just begun when this unsettling photograph of her was snapped at a hospital just after she had been saved. Her current whereabouts are unknown. 3. Human Dolls of Moskvin. Former Russian journalist, lecturer, and self-described necropolist Anatoly Moskvin had extensive experience with cemeteries. Years of his doll-collecting pastime were a cover for a macabre obsession that relied on his unique passions, excavating the dead and creating dolls from their corpses. Moskvin was moving between cemeteries at the same time. "I don't think anyone in the city knows them better than I do," he remarked, referring to his in-depth familiarity with the area's deceased. Moskvin asserted to have visited 752 cemeteries in Nizhny Novgorod between 2005 and 2007. He studied the biographies of people interred there and wrote thorough notes on each one. The practical historian asserted that he often slept on hay bales and drank rainwater from puddles while walking up to 20 miles daily. Remember to subscribe to our channel, Discovery Unraveled. Hit the like and share button and tell us your valuable opinions in the comment section. Moskvin revealed how a group of men in black suits stopped him on the way home from school in his final piece for the magazine, published on October 26, 2011. Young Anatoly was taken with them to the funeral of 11-year-old Natasha Petrova, where he was made to kiss the girl's corpse under duress. He created human dolls and kept them as friends and partners in his home. "I kissed her once, then again, Moskvin wrote about one of his dolls, constructed from the body of an 11-year-old girl. After years of developing suspicion due to increased graves desecrated in his hometown of Nizhny Novgorod, police eventually apprehended Moskvin in 2011. When they examined his house, they discovered 26 life-sized dolls or mummified bodies dispersed throughout. 2. The Pioneer's Defense. This unsettling historical shot, known as the Pioneer's Defense, was taken in 1937 by Russian photographer Viktor Bulla. While undoubtedly a foreboding image, the men, women, and children shown here were Young Pioneers members, a Soviet youth organization comparable to the Boy Scouts. Every pioneer is dressed similarly and wearing a gas mask in the above black and white image. Participating in military readiness drills was a key part of the always prepared strategy, which was not surprising considering how unstable the still emerging Soviet state was. In direct response to the use of chemical weapons during World War I, such preparation and training were conducted. The government supported the Young Pioneer Palaces, which were neighborhood children's community centers that the young pioneers could visit, as well as summer and winter camps. Nevertheless, the movement had far darker aspects as well. During World War II, which the Soviets referred to as the Great Patriotic War, thousands of pioneers lost their lives fighting Nazi Germany. In the years leading up to World War II, as their native country was experiencing waves of murder and terror under dictator Joseph Stalin, they are shown here donning gas masks during a military training exercise in the Leningrad region. Number 1. Michael Rockefeller's disappearance. In the early 1960s, Michael Rockefeller, the son of New York Governor and upcoming U.S. Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, vanished in Papua New Guinea. Michael Rockefeller loved to visit remote locations and explore the uncharted and untamed. In 1961, Rockefeller's thirst for adventure led him to Papua New Guinea's interior. Dutch New Guinea, as the enormous island off the coast of Australia was then known, was home to the Asmat people, who had very little contact with the outside world. Thus, when Rockefeller landed there, he discovered the unknown territory he was seeking, but he tragically had no idea what he was in for. Rockefeller's smile reveals his tragic fate when shown here on his first visit in May 1960. He was likely slaughtered and devoured by the Asmat, cannibalistic people infamous for beheading and eating their foes. The Asmat people ceremonially killed Rockefeller before devouring his brain and using his thigh bones to fashion daggers, according to National Geographic reporter Hoffman, who claims to have found proof. Hoffman has stuck to his claims despite the doubts of other academics who have questioned his work. With that, we come to the end of this video. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel Discovery Unraveled. Do check out our playlists and refer to our other videos. Stay tuned for more.